The sea is a very boring place for an animal.
Hello there, and welcome to the If It Swims podcast, the multi-species angling podcast. I am Bret Bolton. Joining me for episode 5 is Justin Winkert.
Hey, man. How you doing?
Doing good, man. This month, we're looking at some recent trips, some angling news, and as always, the fish of the month. But let's kick things off in the usual manner. Justin, since our last episode, you been fishing any?
Yes, I have been. In fact, I think you were there.
I was indeed.
We recorded a bonus episode, in fact.
We did.
Check it out if you haven't listened yet. It's probably weird.
It is weird.
But was down at Lake Louisville. We kind of went out there just to test out the whole idea of recording a live bonus episode.
Mm-hmm.
But we threw out some night crawlers, threw out some of Brett's salted corn. Never fished with salted corn before, but the fish seemed to like it. I got some commons, smallmouth buffalo,
Mm-hmm.
and a couple of decent channel cat. It was a good time.
Anything else happen?
Yeah. We saved a dude's life who was drowning.
It seems like he was drowning. It was a weird day.
Mm-hmm.
It's all on the bonus episode, but what a weird day that was.
It was very strange.
You caught what? One buffalo and a few channel cats and a tiny common?
Yeah, pretty much.
That's about what I caught.
Yep.
Sans one buffalo, right?
Mm-hmm. I think I caught one buff and one common plus the channels, and you had 2 carp, but no buffalo in the channels.
And actually, I never caught a channel once we got over to the actual fishing area.
Well, bully for you.
I caught one before you got there on a
oh yeah, that's right,
on a lure.
Mm-hmm. That's always a fun way to catch a catfish.
It was actually about 3 or 4 pounds too. It was a really cool catfish.
Should have filleted him and thrown him on one of those barbecue grills there.
You know what? I need to eat some more catfish. It's been a while.
Mm-hmm.
Once the lakes are normal, I will go get some and do that.
When they're not 10 feet high.
Yeah, no kidding. I went out to a local lake or reservoir, if you prefer. And that word is important in the description here. As you know, the first priority of these reservoirs is flood control. That means when it rains a lot, they get weird. And by weird, I mean the parking lots, the parks, the trailer parking, boat ramps, picnic tables, grills, they're underwater.
That's pretty crazy.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that I can't have a little bit of fun. I went out to a local lake, and I literally fly fished the parking lot.
That's pretty cool.
It was fun and weird. The carp were cruising all over the lot. The buffalo were hanging out just off the edge of the concrete in the mud and the grass there. And the freshwater drum were holding tight against the parking bumpers. It was really strange.
Trying to save their spot.
Did you say save their spot?
Yeah, trying to save their spot.
Nice.
Busy weekend, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
They got to save those parking spots.
I managed a few of each, and it was wild. People were looking at me like I was absolutely insane, at least until I hooked up.
Mm-hmm. And then they were like, holy crap, that guy got
what
a
is
fish
this
in
guy
a parking
doing?
lot.
Yeah. I also managed a few bluegill and 2 small largemouth bass because
Nice.
this is If It Swims, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, it sounds like a cool trip.
It was great. I'm not an expert, but it seems like some of the fish are more anxious to explore flooded areas than others.
Mm-hmm.
I caught about a dozen carp, 6 or 7 buffalo, and just 2 bass.
That doesn't surprise me a whole lot. Carp especially always seem to be inquisitive by the standards of fish.
They are. That's also why they get stuck in pools sometimes.
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah. You definitely see them like when there's flooding. If there's fish that get stuck behind, a lot of times it's carp because they're out there checking everything out, and maybe they hung around a little too long.
A little too long, yeah.
Hey, where'd the water go?
Yeah. So I caught everything on one fly. It's a fly I tie up called a Dirty Diane.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fly I started tying a few years ago, named partially after a song by Material Issue, and partially after something else.
Did you name this fly then?
Yeah. It's
Okay.
a fly I named. It's
Mhm.
my fly.
So I was to say, so you came up with your own fly and you
Sure.
decided to name it Dirty Diane.
Wouldn't you?
I mean, maybe.
So yeah, it was a weird day, but it was a fun one. But then again,
Mhm.
how can fishing a parking lot not
I mean,
be a
that's
little
pretty
bit weird?
Cool. Mm-hmm.
It was great.
How deep was the water over the parking lot?
Up to about knee deep.
Wow.
That was cool. So let's get things rolling and jump into some fishing news. I will let you start this time. What do you got?
That's a good question. What do I have? I'm going to be reading these off the internet today instead of my notes because I got sidetracked and I didn't make any notes.
It happens.
It does. But from the Metro, specifically metro.co.uk, a UK news site.
Ooh, carp.
I have now. This is unfortunate. Now I have one about I have a UK fish one, but that was a big fish one, and we talked about getting two weird news. So this is a weird news from the UK.
Interesting.
It's a UK site. The news itself is actually from Asia.
Okay.
But we have a strange doomsday fish caught hours before deadly earthquake struck Taiwan. A doomsday fish said only to surface when disaster is near was caught by a fisherman right before a deadly earthquake struck Taiwan last month. A man named I hope I pronounced this correctly.
Good luck.
A man named Brenjeng Kaon owns a fishing boat called the MB Starlight. He was out fishing in the middle of the night, and at 2 a.m. he hooked an enormous fish. Wasn't totally sure what he had at first. Brought it in. The people on the boat helped him get it to shore, and it turned out to be a gigantic oarfish.
Ooh.
Now, the oarfish normally live, according to the article, at depths close to 3,000 feet or deeper. However, certain myths and legends in Japan and I believe in other Asian cultures say that oarfish specifically will appear when a major seismic event or other, I guess, apocalyptic thing is about to happen. So, as it turned out, this man caught this fish only 30 hours before a deadly 7.4 magnitude earthquake struck Taiwan. And he's fishing in the Philippines as well. And there's a researcher here who, if I scroll through that, I'm sure I could find the name. Here we go. It is a Japanese seismologist, Kiyoshi Watatsumi, speculated that the legends may actually be grounded in science. He told the Japan Times that deep sea fish living near the sea bottom are sensitive to the movements of active faults, especially more so compared to those of fish higher up. So it is entirely possible that they first sensed the faults starting to move prior to an earthquake and just sort of instinctively flee and head for shallower water where people can actually catch them or see them. And so that has become a legend. And so it's believed that the appearance of this fish in shallow water actually preceded the earthquake for that reason.
That's interesting.
There are, of course, other reports, I guess you could say, that haven't established a firm connection, but it's certainly not something that they have ruled out either. The general consensus seems to be that it's not really the kind of thing you can prove, but it is entirely possible that seeing big, gigantic deep sea fish like an oarfish suddenly show up in the shallow waters can be preceding major seismological events.
Sure. I mean, the scientists you mentioned it. If they can sense early movement, then that's a perfectly reasonable thing. If they're living down there, them sensing it is not hard for me to comprehend.
Exactly. Me either. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Nice.
So there's also one of the... Now, unfortunately, the article doesn't say the specific size of the fish, but it does say one of the largest such oarfish that they've seen in the Philippines, which I thought was also pretty interesting, if it is at all related to the fact that there was a major earthquake coming, that it's just scared up some serious beasts from the deep, so to speak.
Sure.
They hardly ever see them at all, and this was one of the biggest ones that they have ever seen, apparently.
Have you seen an oarfish before?
I've seen pictures of them.
Pictures?
Mm-hmm.
I once saw one out off of Florida. It was dead because it was visible to me, right? I was
Yeah.
out fishing the Keys, and there was one floating through, and the birds and smaller fish were going crazy on it. But that is a wild looking fish, isn't it?
It's pretty wild, yeah. I'm looking at the pictures of it in the article right now. It's crazy. Apparently, the other people in the boat, when they saw what it was the first time any of them had ever even seen an oarfish, and they wanted to throw it back, and he decided that they were going to keep it. So they brought it into shore to take pictures of it, and then he started thinking about the legends. And apparently, he didn't really he didn't believe in any of that stuff until the earthquake struck, like 24 or 30 hours later.
2 days
Then he was like,
later,
wait a
but you
minute.
believe it.
Yeah, exactly.
Crazy. It's a good story.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool.
So mine's not quite as crazy, but it is kind of wild. From Fox News, a fisherman in Georgia is now the second angler to set a new record for the same species in a span of about 2 months.
That's cool.
Brian Richburg from Brunswick, Georgia, is now the official record holder for the queen triggerfish, after reeling in the vibrant species on May 17th, according to the Georgia Department of Natural Resources. The angler went out with some friends targeting dolphin, shellfish, and wahoo. And a quick note, dolphin, also known as dorado or dolphin fish to avoid confusion, no relation to porpoises. Back to the story. Around lunchtime, the bite began to slow down, and during the lull, he started bottom fishing. And to his surprise, he reeled in something he says was big, bright, and quite beautiful. He caught the record-breaking fish offshore in roughly 180 foot of water. At first, he was unaware it was a record, and he was about to start cleaning it when someone stopped him.
Hey, man, that looks pretty big. You might want to weigh that.
Came in at 9 pounds, 6 1/4 ounces, surpassing the previous record set on April 7 by Ryan Simmons at 7.58.
Nice.
Yeah, Tyler Jones of Georgia's DNR says, a little unusual for a record to be broken so quickly, but in no way diminishes the achievement of the previous holder, Mr. Simmons. The queen triggerfish species is known for its recognizable shape and distinct vibrant colors, according to the DNR.
Nice.
Richburg is excited for some upcoming fishing tournaments, but right now, he's enjoying being recognized as a record-breaking angler. And triggerfish are cool and weird and strange creatures.
That's pretty cool. I've certainly never caught any triggerfish, let alone 2 record triggerfish.
Yeah, your salt water is pretty much isolated to the Gulf.
Yep.
And the Central Gulf at that, right?
Mm-hmm.
For now.
So far.
What else do you have?
Let's see. I believe my other one is from USA Today.
Nice.
Yes, USA Today. From the USA Today, we have killer whales keep ramming and sinking boats. Scientists may now know why, report says.
Ooh.
So this is a story I've...
Are they just angry?
That is a great guess. Not angry, but we'll get to it. That's a great guess, however.
I hope the answer's not horny.
No. Well, I mean, we'll get to it. You're honing in on it, sort of.
I don't know what's next.
Yeah. So we have, for the last 5 years or so, as I've kind of been following off and on, killer whales have been ramming and sometimes sinking boats off the coast of Spain, Portugal, France, and Morocco, including some very expensive yachts that they've just trashed and sent to the bottom. Scientists have been trying to figure out why, because according to this article, since 2020, there have been more than 673 boats that have been, quote-unquote, attacked by killer whales.
That's a lot.
Most recently, one just happened several weeks ago. A sailboat known as the Alboron Cognac was attacked by a group of orcas. They dove at its rudder, damaging a leak that eventually sank the boat. They had to evacuate the 2 crew members aboard to a nearby oil tanker. The first documented encounter happened in May 2020. Since then, at least 5 sailboats and 2 Moroccan fishing boats have been sunk. So, obviously, scientists have been trying to figure out exactly why this is happening. And recently, a multinational group of orca experts met in February. They were sponsored by the governments of both Spain and Portugal, and they've been studying it for the last few months, and they have finally released their report. The results are kind of interesting. Firstly, they say that most of them have been involving juveniles, which are more playful and courageous than adults or younger ones. And their general consensus is that they're just bored. They're bored teenagers that are out making trouble. Like a roving gang of like high school kids driving around smashing mailboxes with bats, basically.
Wow. Wait. Was mailbox baseball in the article, or is that your?
No, that's me. I made that part up. But
you're just causing problems because they're
they
kids?
They are right. They are bored teenagers, and the article goes on to talk about the fact that with the tuna populations and stuff declining, they're having to work a lot harder to hunt for food, go a lot farther to find food. And as a result, these young orcas aren't getting as much playtime as possible. So when they do have a chance to play with something new, like a boat, they're playing a lot more aggressively because they've got a lot of extra energy to expend. The way, like, leave your toddler at home all day and you get back and he runs around the house for 6 hours till he passes out or whatever.
Yeah, that's insane. It's believable and it makes sense, but wow.
They believe it probably started with just, one young orca in a pod was like poking at a boat and he found out he could move the rudder and he said, "Hey, this is fun." And the other's like, "I want to move the rudder too." And then they broke the rudder off and they start playing with it. Like, "Hey, we could break pieces of this thing off." And before long, the other young orcas in the pod are doing it. And then they meet other orcas and they show them this fun new game. So as it turns out, the current going theory is just that the sea is really boring and the orcas need something to do.
That is the least sinister and most interesting reason or theory possible, right?
There's further in the article, it talks about how orcas have a history of having weird, I guess you could say, trends, especially among the younger orcas in the pod. In the Pacific Northwest, one group of killer whales suddenly got into the habit of carrying dead salmon around on their heads in 1987.
What?
The salmon hat craze began with adolescent orcas, but then spread to the rest of the pod. By the end of the summer, every orca there was wearing salmon on their heads, including the adults.
I have to read this.
All right, I'll link you to it. Yeah,
this is like orca TikTok.
This is like almost that's exactly what it sounds like. Yes,
just weird trends. This is eating Tide Pods. This is what in the world? That's crazy. This is the craziest story you've ever had on the pod.
It's up there. I don't know if it tops taping fish to ATM.
It's the same. It is the same. If the fish taper's friends had started following his lead and doing it also, it's the same story.
There's a great that's true. There's a great quote here that I really like from I'm probably butchering this name, but Renaud de Stefanis, president of CIRCE, which is Conservación, Información y Estudio sobre Cetáceos, a Spanish cetacean organization. Hopefully I didn't totally butcher that.
Nice job.
Thank you. He's been studying orca behavior for over 25 years and was part of the group that released this report. And his quote is, "The sea is a very boring place for an animal." He goes on to say, "Imagine if you're a dog or some other mammal. You can interact with objects around you. But in the sea, there's not much for orcas to interact with, so they play with rudders." But I really just like, the sea is a very boring place for an animal. That sums up the whole theory, basically.
Oh, what a great story. It's weird. I like it.
Yeah, I thought that one was pretty fun. I saw that. It's like, I got to bring that one.
Oh, man. Now my last one's boring. So from the...
Well, jazz it up a bit.
Well, it's a cool fish. How's that?
Yeah. All right. That works. That's good. We like cool fish.
From the New York State DNR, self-avowed trout fishing addict Hunter Kremen was having a day fishing recently at one of his favorite spots on the Genesee River near his hometown in Wellsville. He had landed a few wild brown trout, and then things got weird. Kremen says he always goes out with 3 rods, 1 rigged for bottom bouncing, 1 knotted for lures, and a center pin for drifting. After catching and releasing the brown on his center pin, he recast into the same drift using half an emerald shiner under a float for bait. The drift ran anywhere from 2 to 9 feet deep, he says, and right around the 6 foot, the float went down and Crimmins set the hook. It wasn't until he brought the fish to the bank that he realized he had hooked a tiger trout.
Ooh.
Yes, the rare hybrid between a brook and a brown.
That's cool.
He took a moment to ponder the mystery of this fish. Where did it come from? Was it stocked? Or did it hatch naturally in the feeder creek with the brooks? Judging by the fish's clean, rounded fins, Crimmins deduced it was wild.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, he says, I catch a lot of these 10-inch stocked browns and rainbows, but I've never caught a tiger here in New York, only in Pennsylvania. It wasn't even a thought in the back of my mind. And honestly, I just felt blessed or cool to catch such a cool little fish. Crimmins released the tiger and plans on having a replica made. He estimates it was around 12 inches. He says he was truly stoked. Nice work, Hunter, from us, and what a great catch.
Yeah, that's a really cool fish.
Sure. Have you caught a tiger trout?
I have definitely not caught a tiger trout.
You've caught both the parents, though, right?
I have.
You know what's next?
The fish of the month?
The fish of the month. You're going to like it. I promise you will like it.
Okay.
It's time for the fish of the month.
Is it the Coosa bass?
It is not the Coosa bass, but I do like the early, ridiculous, no context guesses.
Yeah.
Because, well, it's fun.
One day, one of those will be right.
Oh,
You'll
I
pick
know
some random thing, and I'll pick the same random thing.
And I will not tell you when you do.
Yeah, you go, no, it isn't.
You are encouraged to play along, and feel free to send in any corrections to our email. Believe me, it has already happened.
Yeah, we ain't smart, so feel free to correct us.
Please correct us. Our June fish of the month is native to the Great Lakes, Hudson Bay, and upper Mississippi basins, from South Quebec to North Dakota and south to North Alabama and eastern Oklahoma. However, it was widely introduced by United States Fish Commission and state fish commissions, including to California in 1784. And stocking by many state agencies continues today. It has now been introduced to 43 states.
It's a lot of states.
In addition, they've been introduced to countries in Europe, Asia, Africa, and South America. Their habitat, whether native or introduced, is limited by the preference of cooler, flowing, oxygenated water. The world record is 11 pounds, 15 ounces from Dale Hollow Lake in Tennessee from 1955.
That's an old record.
Although that record is disputed, as are many that are that old. This fish is one of 13 species in their genus and one of 34 extant species in the family.
That's a lot of species. I don't know this one at all yet.
And the best part, as always, is the nicknames. And this is where you'll get it probably too quickly. But not at first, because I got some weird ones to start with. You'll like them. Meat Nugget.
The Meat Nugget?
The St. Lawrence Sand Slaunch. The Boulder Beast.
The Boulder Beast?
Boulder Beast.
No. I mean,
it's going to get easier
maybe?
now, I promise.
Yeah, I don't know.
Bronzeback.
Oh.
God, that was all it took?
It might be.
Yeah. Bareback bass. Brown bass. Brownie. Bronze bass. Or just simply Smallie.
Yeah, okay.
You had it.
I did eventually, yeah. That one took me a while. It is the smallmouth bass.
Yes. I figured that was an easy one for you, but one you would appreciate.
Yeah. One of my favorites to catch.
Yes, indeed. Micropterus dolomu. And we should note one day that Micropterus is a weird genus. It's a misnamed genus. We should look into that one day and talk about it.
Oh, is it? Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Yeah, Micropterus means like a small fin. And the first sample they looked at had a damaged fin.
And they're just like, I guess that's it.
Right, exactly.
they all got tiny fins. Don't bother looking at it anymore. We're done here, everyone. Let's go home.
It's a long time ago. You know how this works.
What do we name this fish? I don't know. Small fish. Let's go home, everyone.
Yes.
I require a sarsaparilla in the day.
That's about the timing for these two, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So I happen to know that these are one of your favorite fish, if not your absolute favorite fish.
They are way up there.
With that said, what can you tell us about them?
They are angry, angry little fish. They remind me of hybrids. That is the hybrid of a white bass and a striper, aka a wiper.
Mm-hmm.
In that they will slam the hell out of anything that moves, any chance they get. They hit lures as though they're angry, and then they fight as if they're 10 times their size. Pound for pound, I think they will outfight the majority of fish in freshwater in terms of their strength and tenacity and just how much drag they'll pull if you're using, fairly light gear. They love crayfish. Crayfish make incredibly good bait for them, either live or any lure that emulates crayfish.
Mm-hmm.
They're voracious predators, so they also love any kind of bait fish or lure emulating bait fish. When I lived up north, I caught a lot of them on leeches, which are popular bait up there. They, like you already said, they prefer colder, clearer water than largemouth bass do.
True.
But they can often cohabitate with largemouth in the same body of water. Sometimes you will get largemouth in like the shallower sections of the lake and smallmouth in the deeper. They absolutely love rocks and riprap and any kind of rocky structure, points. They will associate with that kind of structure way, way more than they will with like weed lines like you think of with largemouth. They actually taste quite good, which may be heresy for some of our listeners, but they're delicious.
It is heresy to some folks. However, I trust my local or anywhere I'm at, I trust the DNR to set limits appropriately. And one of the names is meat nugget.
Yeah. And they are very stocky fish. So now that I know what they are, I understand why they call them that.
Yes.
Because they're short, stout, like if you think of like a 5-foot prize fighter, they're kind of like the fish equivalent of that. They're short.
That's good. That's good.
Stocky. They're all muscle. They're angry. They might only be like, 12 inches long, but they still want to hurt you.
Mm-hmm. And again, as far as taste goes, they are
sunfish.
They are sunfish. So what do you expect?
Which makes them delicious. I have caught a lot of them over the years. Probably about all I got off the top of my head.
That's pretty good. I think I've caught 4. Oh, nice work on the smallmouth. Yeah.
Thank you.
Feel free to send in your smallmouth bass pictures and stories to FOTM at ifitswims.com. Before we head out, Justin, do you have anything else?
Probably not this week.
Awesome. So thanks for hanging out with us. Please subscribe, and if you find any of this entertaining, interesting, or funny, please tell a friend. We are on the web at ifitswims.com and on Instagram at if_it_swims. All links to find us are available in the show notes, along with links to items covered this month.